As we saw last week, many cutscenes can end up changing a film, and sometimes cutscenes can just be lost. But what about the ones that don't change that much, and luckily were not lost, but just forgotten? Well, today we'll be looking into that with the Forgotten Child's Play TV cuts. Now, essentially a TV cut of a film will be a re-edited version more suitable for broadcasting on, well, TV. This can be done to cut out graphic violence or just change the runtime to fit more into a channel's schedule, so it's easier for the time slots and to be able to fit more ads in. Now, both Child's Play 2 and 3 had this done to them, as well as many other famous horror films such as Halloween 2 as a big example. So because this one is simpler to explain, I'll only be looking at the cutscenes themselves and explaining what happened to them instead of going into detail as to why they were cut, because let's be honest, it was runtime, it's always bloody runtime, and I'm going to be repeating this a lot throughout this video. Now, throughout the video, they'll be playing in the background, as luckily all the footage has survived as far as I know, and were broadcast predominantly on the Sci-Fi channel from what all this footage comes from, and there are many fan edits out there which have put all the scenes together online if you want to watch them, and if you want to check out the two videos that I basically nicked for this one to put in the background, go check them out, the link will be in the description below. So with that out of the way, let's take a look. Now, there's around about 14 minutes of deleted footage from Child's Play 2, including some moments which transition into the deleted scenes, which is fun. Also, the editor seemed to really hate Andy's foster parents for some reason, so prepare yourself for a lot of their scenes. Originally, when the technician died at the start of the movie, the power went dead with the two company assholes discussing things, and we hear Chucky as he runs around and escapes. This was most likely cut for timing, like they all will be, and because it's not that needed, we knew Chucky was going to escape. It's not really difficult to figure out. For this one, Andy and his counsellor have a much longer conversation at the start of the film instead of one that cuts away straight to the foster parents, with this one showing that Andy mentions his mum getting better in some kind of mental health facility, and we find out that Andy is having nightmares about Chucky, and we even hear Andy very quickly explain the plot of the original film, which is fine for a catch-up but not overly necessary, which is probably why this one was also, surprise surprise, cut for timing. I'm really going to get sick of that sentence because there's a lot more entries that say it, and because obviously it's not needed. This one's kind of a creepy horror moment, so I don't really know why it was cut because it was so short, but essentially the company guy, who's a bit of a douche, he picks up Chucky after the tech guy is killed at the start of the movie, where Chucky says one of his doll cat phrases, and that's essentially it. I don't know why it'd be cut for timing, but it's probably timing, so we'll just move on. This part's got a little bit more dialogue between Andy's foster parents, Phil and Joanne, as they're worried about taking Andy in due to his trauma, wondering if they're suitable enough to be able to take care of him. This was also probably cut for timing and because it's not needed, but this is just the start of Andy's foster parents being fucked over by this edit, like holy shit. This one's just another quick scene that shows Joanne worried about him. You know, once again, the foster parents, cut for timing, whatever, most likely, but it does show that Joanne has already got a care for him. So why was this removed? Speaking of the foster parents, there's another moment. This time they're both being kind of sweet on Andy, even if Phil is a little off. Timing, not that needed, let's move on. For this scene, we see that the company guy is even more of a shit, as he calls his wife first to tell her that he's going to be late, before he calls his mistress, who is the reason why he goes to get the vodka and gets murdered by Chucky. It was also probably cut for timing and because it's not needed, but it does make you hate that guy that little bit more. This clip just shows a little bit more footage of Chucky going through the company asshole's briefcase, which I'm surprised was cut because the hand movements are quite impressive for the time. Like, this is relatively creepy, even for a Child's Play movie. I'm quite impressed with the special effects here, especially for a cut moment, but, you know, timing, etc. But I easily think it could have stayed in. This cut moment is literally just Kyle looking at Andy. Why was it cut? It adds nothing and loses nothing. It's fine. For this one, this is when I started to get really annoyed at the foster parent stuff. This is a very sweet moment where Andy's foster parents are discussing them not being able to adopt a child, as it is stated in the main movie they can't have kids naturally, because, you know, life sucks. So instead they foster kids to kind of like make Joanne feel better in a way, to think that she's still helping out, and she's noticeably upset about this news but is still denying that she's upset, and she focuses on how it makes her happy to see the changes she makes in other children's lives, even if they're not hers. It shows a great loving moment between the two, and it's a shame it was cut, but you know, timing is quite a long scene, but personally, I think it's a really great scene, and they are two of the weakest characters in the films by miles, and seeing how much more developed it could have been is a real disappointment, because the foster parents are my only real issue with Child's Play 2, I'll be honest. Another foster parents scene, because fuck the foster parents, am I right? Basically, as Andy and Kyle go to school, Andy's foster parents discuss sending Andy back to the crisis centre, with Joanne against it for Andy's mental health safety and all that kind of shit, but Phil wants to send him back since they haven't had a full night's sleep since he arrived, and he's worried about his wife's mental health because of it. Eventually the two get kind of awkward after he brings that part up, and Joanne reluctantly agrees that they may need to send him back before we see that Chucky has escaped from the cellar. Now honestly, it just doesn't register to me why this was cut. It's another scene with the foster parents which helps develop them more as characters. I guess it could be for timing because it's about a minute long, but it's a good scene in all honesty, and removal of this is another stupid one which kind of annoys me. Haha, the foster parents are dead. The editor is probably happy by this point. So as the police take Phil's body away, we see Kyle take Chucky from the basement before she throws him in the trash in the final film. It wasn't needed, timing, etc, blah blah blah. After Kyle and Chucky are left by the police officer, we see a semi-truck go past to give us an establishing shot of the crisis centre. Also another one, slightly, where Kyle looks at the centre before crashing the car. It's for timing, they're about 10 seconds long, they're not needed, and they don't really do much. There's a small extra scene where Kyle is chasing the newspaper van, where she loses him for a second, and that's kind of it. And there's also an additional one where Chucky doesn't swear in the back of the van. This is obviously timing, etc. But for this swearing thing, it's most likely due to TV censorship when it comes to swearing, because I know American networks especially, swearing is evil, but blood and gore, that is completely acceptable. For this part, there's an extra moment when Andy and Kyle are going through the factory, where we see that Andy is hesitant to go under the eye machine thing, but when Kyle motivates him, he trusts her and goes under it. Obviously timing not needed, but I think it's a sweet moment, it shows how strong their bond is getting, and I quite like it. I'm sad it was cut. Similar to the other bit of censorship, Kyle says playtime's over when Chucky gets put into the machine to get ripped apart, instead of swearing at him, because, you know, American censorship, I don't think there was any other reason. And last, and sort of least for Child's Play 2, a sort of alternative ending, where we see Kyle and Andy leaving the good guy factory, with Kyle saying that they're going home, to which Andy asks which home. And Kyle doesn't know, but jokes that she's stuck with him in a very sweet bonding moment, followed by Chucky's face being seen in the valve of the molten plastic, smiling as his head is recreated. Now, both these were probably cut for time and because they wanted to leave it any more ambiguous to Child's Play 3, which is fair enough, but I am not joking here, my DVD copy has the Kyle and Andy after they leave the factory ending. I don't know if they've added it to some British versions or something, but I swear to God, my DVD has this. I didn't even know this was a removed scene until I did this video, but I apparently have a removed scene in my version of Child's Play 2, which is fine by me. But apart from that, that's it for part 2. Honestly, most of these cutscenes were more extensions than truly cut out moments, so they do add very little, but I honestly got mad whilst looking into this at how many scenes with Phil and Joanne were cut. I never really liked them as characters for the main film, and now I understand them quite a lot more as people. In the final version, Phil just seemed like a pure arsehole for no apparent reason throughout the entire film, but with these scenes it's clear he's just worried about his wife's mental state, and Joanne seems a lot more caring with these just extra small 10-second moments that show how much she does care about the kids. So they should have just kept him in. The rest, however, yeah, they're useless, but oh my god, the foster parents were done dirty for this cut. Now, compared to part 2, much fewer scenes were cut for Child's Play 3, most likely due to the film's extremely rushed schedule, making the producers not want to waste much footage since they, in all honesty, didn't get that much to begin with. However, there are still a few relatively important moments that were cut, which I'll show you now. In the douchey CEO Solomon's office, we see more moments of him and his assistant talking, and Solomon is using some very strong EA levels of manipulation to try and get the guy to work for longer, but it doesn't really work, or it might do, I don't know. Either way, he's murdered a few seconds later, so it doesn't really matter. This is probably, as you may have guessed by now, cut for timing, and because it's just not needed, and wow, I am so sick of saying that already, it's really starting to annoy me. And in a properly deleted scene, we see that Andy and Tyler meet on a bus Andy arrives on at the start of the film, where Tyler is playing a pretty decent handheld console, since this was made in 1991 and they had to predict 1998, so well done to the props department, because this is predicted rather well to the Game Boy Advance. And we also find out a little bit more about Tyler and his family's background, as well as him giving Andy the knife which he has throughout the film. Now, this was probably cut for time, like most of them, but this time I can understand it because it is a relatively long scene, but it is nice to know more about the actual child in this Child's Play movie. After Andy's haircut, Tyler tells him where his room's going to be, before he gets really disappointed that Andy doesn't want to play pool with him and he goes off disappointed. Timing, not needed, etc. For this part, there's an extra moment with Andy and Whitehurst at formation, which also involves a first look at Andy's love interest, Kirsten, and honestly, it's mostly there just to show that Kirsten is interested in Andy. It's not needed, it's fine because we learn that later on anyway, but here you go, have 10 seconds. For this part, this is actually quite an important scene that they cut out, and it does actually put a lot of the film into perspective. After the garbage man is killed, we get a very decent metaphor scene about the brutality of war, and how affected Andy was by knowing Chucky is beginning to kill random people because of him. And he's been underestimating Chucky essentially throughout the film and the previous one, and the scene basically revolves around him learning to fight back, which is how we see his character throughout the rest of the film from this point onwards, so it's surprising it's cut. But there's also a cannon that's fired and a flag is lowered in respect of Garbage Man, and honestly it's a good scene. It was probably for timing, but fuck your timing. This is kind of important, since in the main film Andy just suddenly 1 second decides I'm going to fight back against Chucky with no real incentive, or no strong incentive, so this works a lot better in my opinion. This scene, we see the aftermath of Kirsten and Andy's kiss. Sheldon basically just catches them and tells them to go back to camp. It was cut for timing, not important, etc. I'm so sick of saying that. Now for a bonus one, a little bit similar to the censorship from the last one, but the opposite this time. There's basically just a less gory death when Chucky hits the fan blades at the end of the film, which is fine, probably cut for TV like restrictions and all that stuff, but they didn't seem to cut that out for Child's Play 2 from at least what I could research, so I don't know. But yep, that's it for Child's Play 3, and my main thought is, why did they cut these? The Longwoods add some very good backstory to characters, and it shows Andy's motivation to actually stop Chucky in the film, which is not really present in the final version. The short scenes, they're very short, they don't really add too much, but can add some important little bits. Just little moments like seeing the kid getting disappointed Andy doesn't want to hang out with him and all that kind of shit. And they're that short, they hardly affect a film's runtime. I think I counted them up at around about like 20 seconds. So I have no idea why all these ones were cut, but I'm not a movie editor, so I don't know how it works. I'm not even going to try and second guess it, but it's a shame they were cut because I don't think any of them were really an issue. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. So, next week we are going to be adding a brand new show onto the channel. I'm not going to tell you anything about it, just keep an eye out for Tuesday. If you got this far, like it said there, comment whatever I put when I'm editing, I'm not too fussed. If you've never got to this part of my video, this part's not scripted, this is just me chatting random shit. I am so sick of COVID, I don't know about the rest of you, it's driving me very slowly mad. Can we just get rid of this virus now? Obviously I don't want to end lockdown, because then people will die, but I don't like being indoors anymore. That's coming from an introvert. I have no idea how you extroverts feel. So, if you do enjoy this kind of content and my weird rants at the end of the video, please be sure to like, share and subscribe. I know there's a lot of you who get to the end of my videos but aren't subscribed, so if you'd like to subscribe for some amazing... Oh, sorry, that was a hiccup. If you'd like to subscribe for some amazing weekly content, then be sure to do so. And yeah, so enjoy the rest of your week in lockdown. I'll see you hopefully on Tuesday with a new show that I'm planning to do, and it'll be every Tuesday, just so you know, and you'll see what it is when it's released. Hopefully it'll be released Tuesday. If not, I'm sorry, and this video is going to be very dated quickly, like most of my videos where I get the timings wrong. But next Friday it's going to be just the usual Child's Play ranking video. It's changed again from last week, so when the video goes out around about a week later I'm going to be pissed off that I put one film above the other. But hey, at least it shows I actually like all the films. So until then, have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye!